Good evening, everyone. It is Mama Two Wife of One, and I am here on this very frigid and windy Thursday evening. What is it, January 28th, 2021, to talk about the third episode of Married at First Sight. This was the episode I've been waiting for. As some of you remember from the first video I did, the couple that I'm most concerned about are Paige and Chris. Take my glass off. There was so much to unpack in this episode. So this episode was the continuation of the wedding. So last week, 3 of the couples got married. This week, it was Paige and Chris and Haley and Jacob that got married. I'll start with Haley and Jacob because they weren't as exciting. So Haley is the one who has been a bridesmaid about 14 times. Jacob is the one who's 38 years old and believes this is his last chance for love. He wanted to get married before he was 40, and he thought this was the best way to do it. He's also obsessed with the 80s. And so they are being edited as the not boring, but as the quirky, awkward, from my taste, kind of boring couple. Just the way they did the music when she was coming down the aisle, and the way they did the music kind of starting and stopping it when they were in front of each other finally. It made it seem like there were these long pauses where they didn't know what to say. And, we saw that last season with Christina and Henry, that some of it, I believe, are the actual people who are feeling awkward and not saying much, but most of it, I think, is the editing to make the viewer feel a certain way, make the viewer look at these people a certain way. So they, for the most part, thought were really boring. Got married. They did kiss at the altar, and she was kind of pegged as the non-memorable one, I guess, of the cast from other podcasts that I listened to. She seemed like she likes to have fun, though. She has, all this personality, and she likes to go skydiving, and she travels all these places. And it seems like he's kind of a homebody. They have a 10-year age difference. So I think the hope is that she will kind of get him out of his shell and get him to do things that he's not used to. It doesn't seem like she's necessarily a party girl, but she's definitely up for anything. And I got the impression that he hasn't done a lot, but he's open to trying new things, which is good. One thing that did get on my nerves is that he was talking to her about his house and how he built somewhat of a beach in the backyard. He's like, I have a pool and I have a sauna and I have a hot tub. It's basically my own personal beach. This man mentioned this daggone hot tub to 4 different people at the daggone wedding, and I was like, if he mentions this hot tub one more freaking time, he was just getting on my nerves with that. But I don't really have a prediction for them. I feel like, I guess you guys will make it. They were just kind of boring to watch. Paige and Chris, on the other hand, you guys, if you did not see last night's episode, if you don't even watch the show, you have to at least watch their episode last night. It was so juicy, and it was basically the things I predicted from the very first episode before they even met each other, before the weddings happened. What I predicted was true. I predicted that Chris, who is very hung up on looks and very hung up on materialistic things, I predicted he would not be attracted to his wife. Chris, by himself, I don't think is cute at all. I'm not attracted to him. Don't find him attractive. She, unfortunately, I don't find her that attractive either, but she has a great body. She has a huge, big old donk. So in my head, I was like, he's not going to be attracted to her face. He's going to love her booty, but he's also going to be very impressed with her ambition and her drive. She's an accountant. She's also a realtor. She owns a house that she rents out. Like, she's about her business. And I feel like he would appreciate that, because apparently, from what he's told people, because of the money he makes and because of the flashy things he buys and how he kind of flaunts his wealth to a certain extent, a lot of the attention he gets are from women who just are gold diggers and who just want him to pay for this and pay for that. So I knew he was going to be impressed with the fact that she comes with her own stuff and she's not looking to get anything from him, but just love and affection. So the way they edited it, when he was waiting at the aisle for her to come down, she came down with her father and her stepfather, I believe. And as soon as he saw her, he said I don't curse, so he said the S word. And then he smiled, but I could tell it was the fakest smile, because he knew, I'm on camera. If I look like, everybody's going to see it and I'm going to be painted as the bad guy. But I could tell his smile was fake. And, they're talking to each other, or not even talking to each other, when she gets up to the aisle, and the minister, who's his homeboy, the minister always reads things about that person, like, oh, so Chris, this is Paige. So Chris, Paige's family wants you to know that she is this, and this. Paige, Chris's family wants you to know that he is blah, 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 blah. all the things that his family said about him for her ears was all like, oh, he loves nice things and he loves to spoil his wife. And it was like, okay, and all of her things were all godly things. You know, she loves the Lord and she loves this, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed, and she noticed, that he was not giving her a lot of eye contact. And I felt in my head, I was kind of crushed for her because she went into this like, you know, this is a sign. The fact that I was chosen for this means that this person is going to be the person that God wants for me. And she's all in, ready to learn to be the submissive wife and just ready to have this God-fearing man. She is 100,000% ready to make this marriage work. And I just feel bad because she doesn't seem stupid. She doesn't seem like she's so caught up in that ideal that she's going to take whatever. Because she even like commented like, he's not really looking at me a lot. But he told her like, oh, you know, you look beautiful. And I think he's basically saying your dress is beautiful and your body's beautiful. And then like they had their little talk at the end and the conversation seemed fine. He definitely seemed impressed with the things that she got going on. So I saw that. But, oh, another thing. Before they went back down the aisle after getting married, when it was time to kiss, every other couple kissed each other, right? When the minister was like, you may now kiss your bride, Chris didn't lean in right away. He didn't grab her hands. He just kind of looked at her, and she looked back at him like, okay. He was like, you know, do you want me to kiss you? And I was like, and my husband watched it with me. He was like, oh, he's being nice. He want to make sure she's comfortable. I was like, no, he doesn't want to kiss that girl. So he's asking her because he's basically trying to give himself an out. If she says, I'm not comfortable with it, then he could be like, oh, okay, phew, cool, and just kiss her on the cheek and keep it moving. No other groom has ever asked that question, can I kiss you? They'll be like, you know, if you're not comfortable, I'll kiss you on the cheek or whatever. They kind of read the room. But Krista just kind of stared at her. I was like, do you want me to kiss you? And she was like, yeah, you can kiss me. He's like, do you want me to kiss you on the cheek, on the mouth? And I'm like, you're having a whole conversation. We're just waiting for you to kiss this girl. And again, I felt like he was using a bunch of stalling tactics. He did not want to kiss this girl. And I kept telling my husband this, and he's like, nah, babe, he's just probably nervous. I'm like, this man ain't got a nervous bone in his daggone body. Either way, they get married. He finally kisses her on the mouth. They go to have some champagne before it's time to take pictures. So he got her this infinity necklace as a wedding present. And she was like, oh, it's so funny. You got me this. I have this infinity tattoo on my arm. And he was like, oh, and showed his tattoo on his wrist. The inside of his wrist is, she was like, oh, that looks fresh. She was like, yeah, I got it 2 days ago. She was like, oh, really? What prompted you to get something 2 days ago? What was originally there was his ex's name. Now, if you guys remember from my first recap, the first episode, this man has an ex-fiance. And it's not like, oh, we've been, you know, it's been kaput for years. No. Keep in mind, they're a little bit in the past. So the wedding and everything is taking place in 2020. He was engaged in 2020. Like, I want to say 3 to 5 months before getting married to this new woman, he was engaged. So he had her name here. So that's our first time hearing the ex's name. And she's like, okay. And then she's like, oh, I have a dog. He's like, oh, really? What kind of dog? So, oh, a Yorkie. Oh, my ex had a Yorkie. And she was like, that's the second time he's brought up the ex, and it's only been a couple minutes. So, of course, she was like, I'm not going to say it's a red flag. I'm saying it's a yellow flag. Definitely something to be discussed a little bit later. The fact that you have this ex-fiance that you just had her a few months ago, and you're kind of bringing her up, like, are you still, you know, is that situation done with? Are you, like, is that finished? And I feel bad for her because that's a question you normally ask somebody when you're dating them and you find out they were engaged. The fact that you guys are married, legally binding married right now, and you have to ask him, hey, are you over your ex-girlfriend? Because, like, if he's not, you guys have to go through an actual, like, divorce. So it was, like, awful situation to put her in. And she definitely was like, I'm not going to talk about it now because it's the wedding, but we will discuss this later, right? So they take pictures, and she feels like he's not really looking at her. And I noticed that too. He wasn't giving her a lot of eye contact. And before they like taking the pictures together, they're kind of off with their friends, just chit-chatting. She's telling her girls, like, you know, the whole fiance thing, I'm not really feeling that. And then also I feel like he's not really giving me eye contact. He's not really, you know, I don't feel connected to him. He's not really looking at me. Like, we're talking, but I just don't feel like we're connecting yet. And her friend's like, oh, well, it's early. It's only been a few minutes. He's probably nervous, you know, which is, I think, a valid thing for a friend to say. Because nobody knows this guy. We're just meeting him. You don't know how he's feeling at the moment. So, fair assessment. However, he's talking to his boys, and his dad is a freaking creep. Okay? His dad was with the groomsmen. All he kept saying was like, "Oh, son, yeah, she's beautiful woman, beautiful woman. Man, she got body. I'm telling you, she got a real nice shape on her son, a real nice shape." And I'm like, you just like your son. This is where he gets it from. All he cares about is the body, and that's all that Chris cares about as well. So needless to say, they take their pictures, they have their first dance, they're still having communication. But in the first dance, he's asking her questions like, so, do you wear makeup often? And she was like, no, not really. I'm really chilled. I'm really like natural. He's like, oh, okay. Are you a tomboy? Are you like a prissy girl? And she's like, I'm kind of in the middle. I think I'm a good balance. Oh, okay, all right. Do you like designer shoes? And she's like, I think she was kind of taken aback, and she was probably like, we could be talking about more things, get to know me. You're just asking about material things at this point. Why not ask me real questions like, how old am I? What's my last name? What's my middle name? What's my favorite color? Like, ask me actual questions about me. And then the worst part, there were a couple bad parts. They sit down to have their dinner, and the cameras are there because it's their first time really being alone. Well, their second time really being alone, even though they're in a room full of everybody else. They're sitting at a table, their little sweetheart table, and it's nice and intimate, and they can have a conversation. In the span of however long they were sitting there eating their food, this man mentioned masturbation, contraception, and asked her if she had a high sex drive. And I'm like, granted, these are questions that you talk to your wife about contraception. Ask her if she has a high sex drive. I get it. You don't ask those questions at the wedding when you've known your wife for maybe an hour. That's something you find out a little later when you guys have gotten to that point of intimacy. Oh, and that's the other thing. She wants children, he wants kids, and he was like, I'm not opposed to having a honeymoon baby. This was part of, not his vows, but what his family was telling her through the minister. Like, oh, Chris's family wants you to know that he's not opposed to having a honeymoon baby. And she's like, oh, okay, just kind of laughed it off. But he was like asking these questions like he's anticipating, okay, we're going to have sex soon. So let's, figure out what kind of sex we're going to have kind of thing. And even she answered the questions, and she was like, I'm not going to answer that question. I think I'll answer that question at a later date. Because it's like, she's trying to get to know him, trying to get into it, but I'm sure she's turned off. Like, why are you asking me these questions right now? This is very inappropriate for you to ask me these questions when we have not known each other that long. You barely kissed me. We had this whole dialogue before you even kissed me, but now you want to jump from that to talking about sex? Like, I'm not understanding. And then it gets progressively worse. At the weddings, they always have the bride and the groom go and talk to the family members or the friends of their new spouse to kind of get to know them better, to maybe find out information about the person they just married. So at their wedding, Paige talks to Chris's father and mother. Chris talks to her bridesmaids. I'm going to start with the father and the mother. And it was interesting because when Chris first signed up for the show and he was getting advice from family, it was his grandparents, not his parents, who were offering the advice. We didn't really see the parents of the actual wedding, so I don't really know what's up with that. But I could tell he was close with his grandparents, like, okay, that's cute, whatever. So she's sitting down talking to the father and the mother, and she's asking them, like, do you guys have any advice? Well, first she was like, thank you all for supporting him. This is very non-traditional, so I know some parents wouldn't be excited about it, but thank you for supporting him. Do you have any advice? The mother was cool. She was like, if you get into an argument with him, don't let the argument draw out for a long period of time. Make sure you talk about things right away and take your time having babies. There is no rush. Very opposite of what everybody else has been saying to her, basically. As soon as she said that, the father looked behind her like, that ain't what we want. The father had the unmitigated gall to say to her, well, Chris works a lot of hours, and when he comes home, all he wants is the touch of his wife. He wants to be intimate. And, it would be nice if it was more than once a month, but he needs that from his wife. And I'm like, how dare you, and what gives you the freaking right to discuss your son's sexual proclivities with his new wife? That is not your business, sir. Why are you all up in your son's sexual life in the first place? If he wants to get it in, once, twice, 3 times a week or whatever, that's up to him to discuss with his freaking wife. That's not for his father to discuss with his wife. How dare you? And as soon as she sat down, and she's like, hey, how are you guys, blah, blah, blah. The father just looked like such a creep to me. He was like kind of leaned back, rubbing his hands a bit, looking at us up, like, hey, yeah, my son is so lucky. Yeah, and I'm not exaggerating. I thought it was so creepy, and I was so just disgusted by the father. And then when he made the comment, I was like, okay, I was right. You're a creep. And the conversation got even better because Chris is talking to her bridesmaids. And I will say this, as a, not even as a black woman, as a woman, period, you need the right kind of women in your corner. Women who are going to support your decisions, who are going to call you on your BS, and who are going to be your champions and your cheerleaders, especially when you are not around. These group of women that she has around her, they are freaking awesome. They had her back. They were asking him really good questions, and their red flags were going up like, oh, I don't know if I like this. So they found out about the fiance, and of course, like the maid of honor was like, I'm not really feeling the fact. She was like, having a fiance is one thing, but having a fiance 3, 4, 5 months ago is completely different. So how are you going to talk about having a honeymoon baby with the woman that you don't even know and you were just engaged a few months ago? It's like, I got a problem with that. And then throughout the conversation, he's like, yeah, she's different from any woman I've been with. They're like, oh, how's she different? He was like, they were like, she's just different. Well, what is it about the other women that, is different? Like, how are they not like her? It was like, they were just the exact opposite of her. And they're like, but what does that mean? And he was like, I mean, the girls I've been with, they're basically like trophy wives. They, want you to do this and this and this. And like, they consider trophy wife as someone who's really pretty. So they're like, oh, well, she's definitely a trophy wife, like off top just because she's her. And he's like, no, she's definitely not a trophy wife. And he was like, I feel like she's definitely what I need, but not necessarily what I would want. It's like, what? Because I know me. I'm very overprotective when it comes to my friends. I'm ride or die. I love you. I support you. I will, again, be your cheerleader and all that stuff. You're not coming for my freaking friends. So the fact that he was like, I mean, she's not necessarily what I would want. And then in his confessional, he admitted, like, I'm not 100% attracted to my wife. And I was like, this is what I've been saying. Because my husband was like, oh, he called her beautiful. I was like, he's lying. He may say her dress is beautiful and, oh, okay, the whole image of this is beautiful, but he ain't attracted to that girl. And I kept telling my husband, he kept thinking I was tripping. This man admitted on camera, I'm not 100% attracted to my wife, which I knew he would not be. But he talked a lot about, man, she got a fat and that butt is nice. So I knew he would like the shape of her. And he's very all about that. And he mentioned that. He's like, she's got the body of a goddess. And her friends were like, yeah, she does. But the problem is that there have been too many men who are focused on her body and not focused on her heart. And, I need to make sure that you know that she is so much more than her body. She's a great person. She's this, she's this, she's this. And I could tell that they were getting uneasy with the conversation. And he also said, and I don't know how the conversation got to this point because I left the room, but when I came back, he made some kind of comment to them that he said, my pull-out game is strong. It's like, why are you saying these things? Why? Why would you say your pull-out game is strong to her bridesmaids? What the freak are you doing? Why is this appropriate conversation? Why do they need to know this information? What are you doing? So it was just bad. And they go back to her, and they basically said, like, I feel like he has, he's charming or whatever, but he makes inappropriate jokes. And I feel like he needs to earn your heart. And he wants to have kids, and I understand all of that, but you are more, her maid of honor said something like, you are more than just a beautiful woman with ovaries. Like, you should not just be here as a baby making machine. There's so much more to you. I need him to understand that and realize that. And it was bad. It was so bad. I was getting texts from my mother, from my uncle. People were hitting me up on Facebook like, girl, what is wrong with this dude? I was like, I don't know. It was just really, really bad. And I hate him. I hate the fact that Paige is in that situation because she is so gung-ho about this and really wants this to work. So I really hated that. So after that, they showed all the couples dancing at their wedding and like throwing the bouquet and throwing the garter and then going back to the honeymoon suite for their wedding night. So my prediction for the wedding night in terms of who's going to have sex or whatever, Haley and Jacob are not. They're the white couple that got married last night who's kind of boring. I don't think they're going to have sex. Paige and Chris, I think Chris was like, we have sex, that's fine. But I feel like, I assume that there are so many other questions that Paige has for him, things that she really needs to know before she goes that far with him, that I don't think she's going to be comfortable having sex until she clears the air with him about some things, namely this fiance business. So I don't think they're going to have sex. I think is a good chance for Ryan and Claire to have sex. He is the black guy and the white girl. I think Virginia and Eric might potentially have sex. She is the party girl and he is the fly boy. And then Brianna and Vincent, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they had sex, but I am going to assume that they are not. They, for me, are one of the most beautiful couples that I've seen in a really long time. I really like their vibe together. I don't have a favorite couple at this point, but I definitely don't see any good things coming from Paige and Chris. And again, I feel bad. I feel like Paige is going to put her all in. I feel like Chris is going to get to genuinely like her as a person because she does have a lot to offer. And is the first woman that he's been with in a while that's not after him for his money because she has her own stuff going on. So I feel like he's going to definitely respect what she brings to the table. But I feel like his focus on physical things, his focus on material things, I think that's going to be their downfall. So that's still my prediction. Still don't think they're going to make it. I don't think Eric and Virginia are going to make it. Everybody else is kind of up in the air. But yeah, we'll see what happens next week. If you guys saw last night's episode and you saw some of the previews for the season, it is not looking pretty and not looking good for your boy Chris. I heard a rumor that I'm almost scared to repeat because I don't know if it's true. And I think I won't. I think I'll just wait till the season goes on and then I'll just address things as they happen. But yeah, if you think Paige and Chris are going to make it, or if you think they're not going to make it, or if you have any opinions about Haley and Jacob, please comment below. Let me know what you guys are thinking of the season so far. What couples do you like or not like? Who had your favorite dress? Your favorite bouquet? What guy had the flyest tux? Let me know your opinion, all right? Link below, comment below, like, share, subscribe, do all of those wonderful things that you know you're supposed to do. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.